video number 3 now. We're continuing with 1 octave phrases. We've learned so far your major scale shape. We've learned the minor scale shape. We've learned about relative major and minor. In other words, from the major you go back 3 frets to the minor. So G major is the same as E minor, they're related. And you've learned that you can reverse it. For example, if you're playing from B minor, you go up 3 to D major, for example. We've learned arpeggio shapes. We've learned 2 ways to play the major. Or you can play the major like this. Then you've learned the minor arpeggio. Or you've learned it like this. We explained what separates the two, the major from the minor arpeggio, is the third note being flattened. So this is from the first to the major third. And that's why it's a major arpeggio. And if you flatten the third, the flattened third gives us a minor. So we've got that theory behind us. I'm just recapping because I want us to know this. Now, in order to compare different tonalities and different scales, different modes specifically, we want to start them all on the same note, because if you don't start at the same place, you've got no place to start your comparison from. If you want to compare something, you need a base to build from, to compare from. Now, we're going to look at 3 different modes. We're looking at the major mode, which happens to be called the Ionian. So when you hear somebody say play G Ionian, they're actually playing the G major scale. Okay. Then we're going to look at the G Lydian, and like I said, because we want to compare, we have to start on the same note. So now we're going to play the Lydian, which sounds like this. And you can hear there's a slight difference here. Listen to the major again. And here comes the Lydian. So there's definitely a key change, which we'll discuss later. And then we're going to look at one more major related mode called the Mixo-Lydian, which is going to sound like this. Here's the major again, so you compare the major to the Mixo-Lydian. Major, Mixo-Lydian. So lots of good things are coming out of this. We're learning the scales, we're getting ear training in because we're comparing different scales to each other. We're getting our fingers smart as well, because they obviously have to now not just randomly go and play whatever sounds cool. We have to think about where the notes are being placed, where we're placing the fingers. Otherwise we can't compare the scale shapes. So it's a good way to get nice finger disciplines as well. Okay, now why is the Ionian, being the major scale, related to the Lydian and the Mixo-Lydian? Okay, we're going to answer that now. Now, first of all, let's count the notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, that's the major scale. And now I'm going to play the Lydian mode, and watch what happens when I get to the 4th note. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a new note, eh? It was originally here. And now it's suddenly different. And that's the 4th note being raised. It's a sharpened 4th. And that's what gives the Lydian its characteristic. Okay. Mixo-Lydian, what's the 7th note here? I'm first going to play the major scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What's over there? Mixo-Lydian goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's got a flattened 7th. Now this is going to tie in later with chord structure in a big way. But first of all, the original question, why are these 3 major related? The reason being, if you start them all on the same note, they all will have this note, the first note obviously, the 3rd note unaltered, the 5th note unaltered, and the octave. Those 3 notes are common to the major. It's common to the Lydian. And it's common to the Mixo-Lydian. And that's why we say they are related, because you can build the major chord from each one of those modes if you start on the same root note. Okay, lesson number 1, recap. Ionian is the major scale. Lydian and Mixolydian are major related because you can build a major arpeggio from the root note from where they start. Now, in other videos I've discussed that you can also use the modes for positions. So if I'm doing a solo, for example, and I'm going, I can use my different modes to help me get around the fretboard. So yes, modes are good for positions too, but there's actually more to it than just that. Now, first of all, you have to know the modes, so that's step 1. If you don't know them, you can learn some cool things about this here, and you can at least get your 1 octave scales under control and train your ear in the process. So even if you don't know all the modes, please go learn this. G major, we've done this a lot. G Lydian. G Mixolydian. Now, when you come to the positions for this, and this is quite important, your mode sequence goes Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, now Mixolydian, Aeolian, Locrian, and that's all on your PDF file. The 4th mode is the Lydian, so if I play the Lydian, okay, on G, in other words, G Lydian is the 4th mode of some or other scale, okay. It's the 4th note of the D major scale. So when I'm playing D major scale, or I'm playing G Lydian, I'm actually playing the same thing, okay, the same key, but I'm starting at a different place. And because I'm starting on the G, sounds cool. Because I'm starting on G, it's got a Lydian tonality because I'm bringing this note into it. If I wanted the Ionian tonality, I would go. And now I'd have a G major tonality. Now, if I wanted to get the Mixolydian in, I'd have to make sure that that note there has been flattened to the 7th to get that sound. So now I can go. So here's a nice exercise for yourself. Get a G major chord, or just normal G power chord's fine. Play it, and then do a little riff of your own from the G major scale. Like for example, this is just winged. And that sounds cool, okay? It's cute maybe, but you're training the ear to hear the differences. Because when I do the next one now, G major with the Lydian, gives a different sound. That sound is the tonality of the Lydian scale. If I go Mixolydian, and you get that sound. And that's what quite nice fun, because it forces you now to think outside your comfort zone. Everyone's got a go-to. For example, my go-to is I just love doing this. For example, your go-to might be something different. Everyone's got theirs. By creating exercises like this, it forces you to hear new things, experience new sounds, and grow and understand what the purpose is. So to recap this video before I say goodbye, we've now learnt your Lydian shape. We've learnt your Mixolydian shape. And of course, you know your major shape. Okay, we know that the Lydian is actually in the key of D, and then the Mixolydian is actually in the key of C. Just for by the way, it's the 5th note in the key of C, because if I take the C major scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that is G, and there you can hear the scale. Simple as that. Okay, now any questions so far, please drop me a WhatsApp, and I think over there I should have done this. Okay, just in case somebody picked it up. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this so far. get used to tonalities versus positions. They're not the same, but there is a link, or they're not completely foreign either. There is a connection between them, because if I know my tonality, I can tie it back to a key. If I know I'm in the key of G, for example, I know I can play A Herlian, C major, D Dorian, E Phrygian, G Mixolydian, and I've got my entire guitar neck free. If I'm in the key of C Lydian, Lydian tonality just means it's starting on C, for example, then I can tie it back to whatever key that is, for example, which will happen to be the key of G, and I get G major, A minor, B minor, C major, D minor, E minor, F sharp diminished, and so on. And if I was going G Mixolydian, etc., 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 you're getting the idea for this. Okay, any questions, please drop me a WhatsApp, and yeah, take care, learn your scale shapes, listen to the differences, and let me know if you got questions, and experiment. It's the best way to learn. Remember, rather innovate, don't imitate. Thank you.